Hello everyone! Have you just removed the label from your nice new sweater and now you've got a hole? No panic, I'm here to help. Here we can see where the label was in the sweater along the seam with a couple white bits left. And we have a number of frayed stitches. So they've been cut through. And what we need to do is to reinforce that edge, that raw edge, before we sew it back along the seam line so that we strengthen the whole length. When we'll be starting on a little bit before the hole and finishing up a little bit after the hole. You will need some thread, which is about the same color as your clothing, a small needle, and a pair of scissors. First, look at the size of the hole, and you want to have more, maybe 2 or 3 times the length of that hole, plus double that, because we'll be using double strength thread. Start by threading your needle and simply pull the one end all the way down to meet up with the other tail. This way you have a double strength piece of thread and pull that. You don't have to worry about tying a knot. We're going to do this a little bit differently and the thread will be secure. Remember, you're going to be starting a few stitches before the hole. So get a good grip on your work. Get started simply weaving through. You might want to check to make sure. You don't want to be able to see the needle on the other side. So you want to weave through either the seam or a little bit in the fabric in advance of the hole. Let's see that up close so you can see what I'm doing here. I'm simply weaving through, so you can see I'm a little bit before the hole there, weaving through each of those hole stitches that are still remaining. This will reinforce that raw edge and make it stronger when we go to sew it through to the seam. There you can see I'm extending it just a little bit past the other side of the hole as well. Very important. And let's turn this over and see how it looks. So we're checking, okay, we can really see the needle, and if we can see the needle, we will see the threads. So I did that again. The same process, a little bit more carefully this time. And let's hope that works. Let's check. That's a little bit better. Right, so now it's a small hole I've put it onto the needle. I can just pull that through. Be careful not to pull it too far through, because remember, we don't have a knot. We have loose ends on the one side of the work, on that side there. And so now we're going to come back the way we came. We want to get back closer to the start of the hole before we begin consolidating it against the seam. So again, I'm just pushing that through the seam. So now I've anchored the thread. And straighten out that thread, make sure it's even and the tension is good. So what I'm doing now here is simply a whip stitch, a very simple whip stitch. I'm going in on one side, through to the seam, and then up and over again. So this is something that you'll continue the full length of the hole. You want to keep your stitches small and as close to the seam as possible, while being sure to catch that thread that we've sent through. So here we have a close-up so that you can see how I did the whip stitch. So I'm putting the needle in quite close to the finished edge and pulling it up through the seam. Remember to check your work. So this is looking pretty good. Sorry, that wasn't quite in the frame there right away. With the close-up, you can see that sometimes as I'm pulling the thread through, because it's a double thickness, one of the threads tends to get stuck. It doesn't pull all the way through, and you're left with a loop. You'll just need to pull gently on each of the individual threads until you find the one that is a little bit stuck, and just pull that through. And don't worry, this can happen a few times as you're sewing. This is looking done and secure. Make sure you check your work as you're sewing so as to avoid any mistakes or very visible stitches from the front side. That will save you from having to undo everything and do it again. All right. Once you've finished your whip stitch around the hole, the previous hole, now what you want to do is finish off the edge. So you're going to go through again, similar whip stitch, but this time what you're going to do is send the needle through the loop before you pull it tight, just a few times, and this will finish off, make a nice finished edge, and hold it securely in place. And just for the finishing elements, this is where you're going to send the needle one last time back through the center seam. Really, the purpose here is to anchor the thread. Now we haven't made a knot. We haven't made a knot at the beginning nor here at the end, and that's because the thread will now be good and secure in the material itself. So go ahead and cut the end of that. Go back and find the original tail of the thread, and you can cut that off. Just check to see if we can really see those loose threads sticking up, and you can trim those very carefully, of course. And that's about it. You should be done. Let's take a look. How does that look? So I'm satisfied with that. That looks like a finished edge. It's looking clean. It's looking discreet. And on the other side, it's nearly invisible. So from a bit further away, let's take a look. And you can see that my sweater is good as new. So from a distance, you can see my sweater is good as new. I'm very pleased with the result here. So just a few minutes, and you've saved your sweater. Hope you found this helpful. Please like and subscribe. Bye.